Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Thank you, Erica, and hello again, everybody. I'm Josh Taylor. Welcome to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Good to talk to you on a Wednesday evening and plenty to discuss. Steelers and Seahawks, another day for the Steelers getting ready, officially their first day of practice as they get ready to go out to Seattle. Also, we got to talk about the Penguins. They go to Long Island and just thrash the Islanders 7-0. We got to get into the details of that one. And also, West Virginia wins a bowl game and their coach gets dunked in mayonnaise. That actually happened. We'll discuss all those things and more with my guest who's live at the 93.7 The Fan newsroom. Chris Muller is here. The prop for Mitch Hedberg references is set at about 2.5. We'll see how we do. Chris, let's start with the Steelers. Mason Rudolph, it seems more and more of an eventual certainty that Mason Rudolph's going to start at quarterback just based on what we heard yesterday. Rudolph taking the snaps of practice today. Your thoughts on this move and how this works or may not work, in your opinion, for the Steelers offense Sunday?
I don't necessarily have a ton of faith in Mason Rudolph duplicating the feat. However, I think it's obvious that he should play and start. Kenny Pickett, if he were even remotely established as a higher end or even an above average NFL starting quarterback, you'd go right back to him. But the fact remains, Kenny Pickett literally does not have a game on his ledger like the one Mason Rudolph played against Cincinnati. I think it's the right decision. I know that they're kind of being coy about it, but barring something unusual, he's going to be the starter. I think that's the right move. And the one thing, Josh, that I do think we saw from Mason Rudolph that, oddly enough, George Pickens foreshadowed in that otherwise sort of infamous locker room scrum was he said, hey, the guy will stand in there, stay in the pocket, and make throws. And I thought, by and large, they protected Mason Rudolph well. He stood in, and he made the throws when he had the chance to make them. And that's all you can ask out of any quarterback. And the fact that it's so much of a departure from what we saw from the other two guys this year is why he has to start in Seattle.
I 100% agree with that. If there's anything that Mason Rudolph did that Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky have not done consistently, as you said it, he's stood in the pocket and made throws and processed what he saw and got the ball out to the right guy in a timely fashion. Just those basic things that NFL quarterbacks are expected to do. He did those things. He continues to do them, or he continued to do them throughout the course of the game. I agree with you. That has to be the move, if for no other reason than because Mike Tomlin said he needs this offense to continue to produce. And they were going to leave no stone unturned and figure out whatever they needed to figure out, and they did. So now they're pretty much, I won't say they're stuck with it, but it makes sense for them to stick with it. On the defensive side of things, I want to run this by you because there's some familiar faces they're going to see on the other side of the ball from Seattle this upcoming week. There's a possibility they could see Devin Bush. There's a possibility they could see Artie Burns in this game. So I'll run this question to you. The Steelers have had a bunch of guys that they put on the practice squad in the course of the season. But right now that linebacker room has the likes of guys of Michael Walker and Miles Jack and Blake Martinez, and now Jalen Smith has been added to it. If you had to choose between that linebacker room or the possibility of seeing guys like Artie Burns and Devin Bush again, which one would you go with?
Well, like Devin Bush and Artie Burns are still on the Steelers, or I get to see those guys out on the field? What, like?
No, you get to see them again as Steelers. Here. Like, would you take the group now?
Oh God, no! I would take whoever you've got. Got to catch them all. Got to catch them all. Blake Martinez or whoever. Throw in a Charizard, and we've really got some business that we could do. Devin Bush was laughing at the Steelers when things were going very badly for them. Who are you to laugh, buddy? You've got to be one of the worst, probably 20 first-round picks of the last decade. A complete bust in the NFL who hardly plays. Artie Burns was like Justin Lane, except drafted 2 rounds higher, a project. They panicked when they didn't get William Jackson III because he went the pick before. Mm-hmm. I'll take what they've got in that linebacker room, even though it's less than inspiring, Josh, to say the least.
412-575-2600 on the Borders and Borders hotline. Give us a call or shoot me a tweet at Josh Taylor HD. We're taking your questions. We still got to talk about the Penguins, and we might even get to mayonnaise in the bowl game. We might even get to that, too, when we come back. Stick around. Welcome back. Time for our GMC Sierra Tweet of the Night. And Chris, this is my favorite new bowl tradition. The Mayo dump after the Duke's Mayo Bowl. West Virginia beats North Carolina tonight 30-10. And Neil Brown gets the Mayo dunk after the game. I don't know a better way to make bowl season fun and relevant, because there's a lot of bowl teams that you probably wouldn't watch under normal circumstances. But if a game ends like that, Chris, I'm going to watch it every time. I want to see more crazy bowl gimmicks. But your thoughts on
two things. I have a fresh jar of Dukes at home right now that I'm going to be using for some cooking projects later in the week, except no substitutes. There's always Dukes. It's only been in town for like 5 to 7 years, but Dukes, obviously. That looks like they thinned out the Dukes with some water.
It does look
real
a little
mayo
would
soupy.
not. Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, they can't dump real mayo on it. I guess they could, but it wouldn't look as good. But, you know, I used to love mayo, Josh. I still do, but I used to, too.
That's one for those keeping track at home. Favorite use of mayonnaise for me? Grilled cheese. I use mayo to make grilled cheese instead of butter.
Not in your coffee like Will Levis?
God, no. No, I respect myself as a coffee drinker to not
Here's a cooking tip for everybody. Ready? I'm dead serious about this. All you steak makers who think you make a great steak at home, but maybe you want a little extra crust on that thing, right? That where all the flavor is, you know, that nice brown steakhouse crust. Mm-hmm. I'm dead serious. I'm not putting you on. I would not sit here and spread lies on the nightly sports call, especially around the holidays. And on my parents' wedding anniversary. Happy anniversary, Mom and Dad, no less. Take a very thin layer of mayo. Doesn't matter what brand, Dukes. Take a very thin layer. You're going to sear that steak in like a cast iron pan, right? Put the very thin layer of mayo over all the sides of it and then sear the crap out of it. You will get the best crust on your steak that you have ever gotten, and it will not taste like mayonnaise. Not that that should be a problem, but you'll get a great crust. Also, Josh, best application of mayo besides having it dumped on a millionaire football coach's head, you get a little garlicky or chipotle mayo and you dip some French fries in it. Brother, you're living. You're living like a European. You're living like somebody in the Netherlands who's living a little wild with that Southwest flavor.
That I have done. Chipotle mayo was one of the great things I discovered living in the South for 3 years. So we agree on that. Let's segue 412-575-2600 because there is no segue. Ray in Whitehall, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
I think that one thing about this Rudolph this time around is the George Pickens, you know, we didn't have a deep threat like that back when he was playing in 19. And then I also want to say that from what you guys know, were the Pirates actually considering trying to get Dylan Cease? And I'll hang up. Thanks.
Thanks for the call, Ray. I know there had been talk about the Pirates and Dylan Cease. We had Jason Mackey on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown earlier in the week. There had been some discussion there, and just basically talking with him, he felt like the Pirates might have been trying to be in the discussion, but they just didn't have as much as the Reds could have offered, Chris.
I don't really believe in those situations, Josh. I'm a cynic, I guess, about this franchise. I don't really believe they're ever seriously in unless it happens. Remember how often they were right there with David Price when he was a big deadline target? So I just, you know, and if they are, like, it's funny the way you said Jason phrased it, they were trying to get involved. It's like a kid in high school trying to break in with the popular crowd. They're trying to crack the joke that everyone will laugh at. They're trying to do the cool thing, and no one ever seems to notice. That's sort of how I feel about that. As to Ray's point there about Pickens, the ironic thing is Mason Rudolph had his college deep threat buddy on his receiving core.
He did.
He had him. And then the other guy, the duck calling guy, had the better chemistry with him in the pros. But having a George Pickens type of player certainly makes life easier for a backup. And just to levy my opinion on George Pickens, since I've been off the air for a couple days, taking a couple extra days off, that was a hell of a game by him, obviously. But I think it only served to potentially make his situation overall worse because he has maybe his roughest off-field week of his entire professional career and then kind of goes out and reminds everyone why they can't really do anything to him no matter how mad they get.
Yeah, Andrew Filipponi and I talked about this last night. We said, what if they become a run-heavy team against Seattle because it's working so well and Pickens doesn't get the ball? What changes between last week and this week if that becomes a situation where they lean on the run game and maybe he doesn't get as many targets? Let's go to Rob in Beaver Falls. Rob, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Yes, good evening. I I'm going to talk about bowl games for a moment.
Let's do it.
We've had, in the last 20, 25 years, this explosion of bowl games, which to me had mostly a sort of toilet bowl flavor to them. Let's put it that way. Now we have the next round this year, and we have bowl game after bowl game where so many of the players aren't participating. And tonight, I think, was the worst example of this. Texas A&M had 30 players, it was announced, that were not playing. These were people that had played, starters. So you have nothing but a freshman secondary. What's the trend? Why even bother? I know there's money to be made on bowls, apparently. What do you think?
I think wait till Florida State plays Georgia. It'll look even worse. And those players are actually better. I got into this discussion way back a couple years ago, Chris, when Kenny Pickett sat out of the Peach Bowl with Pitt. And there was a recurring trend of people of a certain age being frustrated about players sitting out of bowl games, especially bowl games that had no playoff or championship implication to them. But ironically, this was the same group that complained a lot about participation trophies, Chris. And is bowl season not just one giant participation trophy fest outside of the playoff? Or did I miss something?
Well, one thing is I don't think it's just NIL has created this monster.
No.
I do think it's something that predated NIL. There's a lot going on here, Josh. As much as I would be tempted to kind of say what you just said and kind of roll my eyes at the people getting upset with it, on one hand, I can understand, like, people I respect who cover the sport, who, wouldn't just automatically reflexively take the side of the program and be anti-player here, have said, yeah, it is kind of a problem when just the sheer number of these guys aren't as enticed to play in these games. But I think it's a lot of things. I think it's a combination of factors. One is what the caller just said there to start with. You have so many of these now that by nature they're watered down.
Yep.
They're dumb, right? Like my dad saying to me, hey, I thought you had to have 6 wins to be in a bowl game, as he watches a 5-7 Minnesota team.
Yep.
They're all there for ESPN to augment their programming, and it is ESPN almost exclusively who needs these. So the players know these games are crap. They know that only like the New Year's 6 games really and the college football playoff games really matter. And this is the other part, Josh, I do think more and more of these guys, now with NIL, but even before it, have gotten wise to the idea that they can almost exclusively only hurt their draft stock in these lesser bowl games with a potential injury. Nobody's really putting on film of a guy from the Duke's Mayo Bowl, for example, and saying, wow, he really showed out there. It's one of those chicken and the egg things.
Yep.
He really showed out, but did he do it against bad competition? Well, did he do it against bad competition because nobody wants to play in it because they're worried about getting injured? So I don't know what the solution is. I don't think there's a good solution. I think it goes all the way back to where you started this segment. You're going to continue to have goofy bowl game gimmicks to try to get people to watch because the actual football is pretty much garbage.
Here's the thing I got to bring up. I'm glad you mentioned needing 6 wins to make a bowl game. Why is winning 6 games? Why is 500 the benchmark for making a bowl game? That's part of the problem. It's a really big part of the problem.
Yeah, but I mean, the real problem is that you have so many of them that you have to justify now all of this, and you have to retroactively reverse engineer why a team gets into a bowl game. I mean, my dad's in his early 70s. Sorry, Dad. And he grew up in the era when there weren't that many of these, and it was an honor, and players did care about going to play because showing out in one of those games in the 70s or even the 80s could get you on the map. I'll be honest with you, Josh. That clip of Neil Brown getting covered in watered down Dukes, that is the only clip of that game I saw tonight because I didn't care about it. And I know it involves a team that's essentially a local team, but who cares? What is that? What happens in that game that matters to anybody here?
I won't lie to you. Watching the mayonnaise thing was the only thing I really wanted to see from the entire thing.
That's why there's a Pop-Tarts. That's why there's a Pop-Tarts bowl now, or whatever, a toaster pastry bowl, or whatever it is, where the trophy is edible. They've got slots for the Pop-Tarts. It's become kind of gimmicky and stupid. I mean, it has. There's about 6 to 10 bowl games that actually matter, and everybody knows which ones they are, and the rest of them are just warmed over garbage to kind of fill programming while nobody's at work for a week.
I will shamelessly admit that these are my 3 favorite bowls: the Duke's Mayo Bowl, the Pop-Tart Bowl, and the Cheez-It Bowl. because they all involve food and they're ridiculous and they're gimmicky.
What about that lawnmower? What about that lawnmower bowl, whatever it's
Oh,
called?
there is a lawnmower bowl as well. There's also that one. That's probably in the top 5. I won't even lie about it. Because my thing is, if you're not going to have a good game, make it interesting. And that's at least what they're trying to do. We got to take one more break. We'll wrap up when we come back. Stick around. Top of the hour, KDKA News at 11. Let's head to the news desk. That's where Erica Standish is. Good evening, Erica.
Yeah, hey, Josh. Here's what's coming up tonight. Why the Allegheny County Health Department is issuing a warning about a local movie theater. Plus, an Amazon driver describes the moment she was held at gunpoint. And we're going to have the winning Powerball numbers. All of this and much more coming up at 11.
Thank you, Erica. In addition to everything she talked about, we will have Penguins and Islanders highlights plus West Virginia highlights in the Dukes Mayo Bowl. Speaking of the Pens, they beat the Islanders 7-0. Sean on Twitter says, congratulations to Chris Letang for setting an assist record in a period for a defenseman. He also said, can the Penguins get a holiday break before each game, Chris Muller?
Yeah, it'd be nice if they could. It was also just great to see them destroy the Islanders that way. I don't know. There's something about the Islanders. I'll always hate them. 6 goals in one period. Then adding the extra point was beautiful. Puustinen, who I think has been largely pretty good, getting his first NHL goal. Very cool to see. Josh, I got to be honest, though. I'm still hung up on the Bulls right now. And I'm starting to I know there's a Rice University. My sister-in-law went to grad school there. But how about the Rice Bowl? They could just say that, and then the tagline could be, it's the perfect bowl for when you're hungry and want 2,000 of something.
Well, the way I see it, that's 2. And the way I see it, having all these bowl games is kind of like a dry clean only shirt, which means, Chris, it means it's dirty. It's dirty.
Well, I was going to do one more sponsor, I was going to go to the Yoplait Bowl, but then it said, sorry, try again when I was buying tickets, and they must have been running a contest that I was unaware of. So I thought it was maybe that it was a message of hope from my friends at Yoplait, the Yoplait Bowl.
Wise words
Got
of
any more
encouragement
for
from
me?
your friends from Yoplait.
If somebody handed me a ticket to the Bad Boy Mowers Bowl, it'd be like them saying, here, you throw this away.
I mean, we talk about ball games. It could be worse. We could try to play tennis against a wall, and they're just relentless. So there's that. We are out of time. We hit the over. Cash in your money. For Chris Muller, for our producer, Steve Benko, and our team here at KDKA. I'm Josh Taylor. See you tomorrow night.